Hey y'all, welcome to my channel. Ellarie here. Excuse the loud banging you guys may hear. I have some contractors in my basement and it's gonna be loud from time to time, but I got a job to do. I'm here today to show you guys my current foundation contour routine. I think the last time I did a foundation routine was probably like in 2016, 17, I don't even know. But since I still get questions about a few different things, I thought I would just update you guys and show you what minor changes I have or have not made. It's not gonna be more so focused on the products because I switch up the products whenever I kind of feel like it, depending on how my skin is. If I'm feeling oily, if I'm feeling dry, I might use different primers, different foundations, etc, etc. But even when I switch up those different things, I still apply them the same way. So, you know, I do want to reiterate that this is my routine. This is what I like to do. This is what works for me. It may not work for you, and so I'm not gonna say this is what you do. I'm just gonna say this is what I do, because I know that I like to do things my way, and there's some things that other people do that they tell other people to do that I can't do, you know? So it's really gonna depend on your skin type, your face shape, and all that good stuff, and preference, pretty much. But I'm just letting y'all know what works for me. Before I get started, make sure you guys are subscribed. Make sure you guys got those notifications on, because YouTube and Instagram been hating on me lately, and a lot of y'all who are subscribing are saying you guys aren't getting notifications. Same thing on Instagram, so just make sure you guys have those notifications on and are subscribed to my channel. That way I don't have to feel like nobody likes me. Just kidding, not really, but so I already started with my eyebrows done. I've had plenty of eyebrow tutorials on my channel. I still do the same thing. Benefits Precisely My Brown 4.5, and I cleaned it with MAC Studio Fix Concealer and NC50. So I'm gonna start by priming my face. I have a lot of favorite primers. The one I'm gonna use today is the YSL Touche Éclat Blur. You guys know I use this all the time. I just love it with or without makeup because it looks so pretty and it's not drying or super oily. Just feels good when you apply it. I don't have any nails either. I cut them off because 2 of them broke, and I love not having no nails right now. I might just go without for a few weeks. I always have my little moments where I love my nubs. Usually I start off a little more drier than this, but since I put like all that moisturizer and my medicine on this morning, my face was kind of a little bit more oily, because sometimes I'll need like these First Ollie drops to mix in with the primer, because it has a little bit more of a moisturizing oilness to it that brings a little bit more moisture to my face. But I don't need that today because I was already starting off looking a little glossy. So I am going to use a color corrector today, which I rarely use. I only really use a color corrector if I feel like I look really tired, which I feel like I look really tired today just because I woke up at like 5 o'clock in the morning to take Yosh to the airport. So I don't necessarily use them for dark circles. I kind of just use them as an extra like step to brighten up underneath my eyes instead of using like a really lighter concealer. I just use a little bit of color corrector. You don't even need a lot. It just kind of helps brighten up my under eye area before I put my foundation on. I'm sure you guys already know about these Live Tinted Hue Sticks, these 3 color correctors that came out. I'm going to use the shade Rise, and I usually just put it right in the eye sockets. I don't go all the way down here, but just in the pockets of my eye sockets. And I'm going to press it in with my little nubs. I love this shade. It's like the perfect shade for my skin tone, because I personally don't need that much. So this is like the perfect shade for me, not to go like overboard like some people do on Instagram, you know what I'm saying? I really need like a little bit of green right here because I'm super pink, and a little red right here due to my eczema. I rarely get this by my nose. I usually get patches on my cheeks like in the winter time, but for some reason my skin is being super funky, and I've had these little patches underneath my nose. I don't know if you guys can see them. See that? See that? See that? It's starting to go away just a little bit because I've been putting my eczema medicine on it. I don't really like to put my eczema medicine on my face, but it just wasn't going away. So I just been dabbing a little bit on there lately, and it's starting to go away. But I don't even have any green color correctors because I literally gave them all away because I'm like, I never use these. And of course when I need them, I ain't got them. But It's okay, we're just gonna heavily conceal that part a little bit later. Now I'm gonna move on to my foundation. Lately I've been using the Pure 4-in-1 Selfie in the shade DPG1. I'm out of it because I only had the little tester and I haven't been able to re-up on it yet. Because it matches my tan skin a little better, but since I'm out of that, I'm just about to mix some foundations. I'm gonna mix the Born This Way Spice Rum with Lancome's Tinte d'Oil Ultra Wear in 465 Susie, I think. I mixed these two together yesterday because I couldn't find any foundations that matched me perfectly that I liked. So I'm gonna be mixing for a while until I re-up on my Pure. I just mixed it on my hand with this little eyelash applicator thingy. And now I'm about to put it all over my face. You guys know I like to blend in my foundation with a beauty blender. Even if I do use a brush, I still use a beauty blender. I feel like nothing blends like a beauty blender, I'm sorry. Every time I do go back to brushes for a little bit, I always end up going back to the beauty blender. Not the bootleg ones, but the beauty blender. And my favorites are the black and the pink. And I use the bottom of it to blend in my foundation on my face and neck. I do my ears as well, and I always put my scarf back even if I have my wig on. I try to get as close, if not on my hairline. I don't want no problems. I spent a lot of time using my beauty blender, blending in my foundation and my concealer and my powder, because I just feel the more time you take stamping it in and pressing it into your skin, the more seamless it's gonna be. Even once it looks all blended in, I still take like another minute to just go over it a few times just to make sure I don't miss any spots and that it's just pressed in. So when I don't have a tan, I usually go a half a shade darker on my foundation because my neck would usually be a little bit lighter than this. When I do, I go like kind of a shade darker. That's why it's probably looking a little crazy right now. But I do that because I make the inside of my face so bright that all this darkness is gonna end up looking like a contour once I'm done, once I add my concealer, which I'm about to do right now. So you guys know one of my favorite concealers is this Tarte Shape Tape. I just love the color, whether it's winter or summer. The shade Deep works for me wintertime and summertime. It doesn't crease up on me. It's not super drying. It's not super thick. It's not super heavy. It's just one of my all-time favorites. It isn't the only one that I use, even though I use it a lot on my channel. It isn't the only one I use, but I just always end up going for this one. It's not super fast drying, so I can apply it in all the areas and have time to blend it in. I usually don't like to let my concealer sit too long because I crease up really easily under my eyes, and if I let my concealer sit too long before blending it in, I can't work it in well enough to prevent it from creasing up under my eyes. I have serious crease issues and it is my pet peeve. I don't like seeing not one line under my eye, not one. So when I have time, I like to work one section at a time just to make sure I don't let any spots dry before I can work it in really well. But if you don't have a fast drying concealer, you can do what you do. So you guys know these have a wand. I apply it directly to my face, even though if you do that after time, your concealer will probably change colors because you're going over your foundation, which is a different color than your concealer. I just don't mind because I go through these so fast. It never usually makes that big of a difference for me. So I usually just do lines straight down, starting like right on my lash line. I always make sure I get right on my lash line because that's where I crease up the most. And I pull it out towards my temple. And I do short strokes and I get longer once I get towards the sides of my nose. And since I contour my nose, I have a wider nose, which is why I always go on the sides just to help me contour easier once I get to that part. But I go on the sides of my nose and in this little crevice right here where I have that light patch. And I usually don't go any further down than that. And like I said, sometimes I'll put it everywhere if I'm rushing because I know I'm going to get to each section really quickly and I can make sure I blend it into those creases really well before it dries up and I can't work it in all the way. But since I have time today, I'm just going to work one section at a time. I use the pointed tip of the Beauty Blender and just press it in to my skin. At this point, my Beauty Blender is not super wet. I don't like my Beauty Blender to be super wet when I'm doing my concealer or my powder because it will pick it up and I'll have like sponge prints on my face. I cannot stand that. Sometimes when I'm going too fast, I don't realize the beauty blender is too wet and I won't see it until after I like really get in the mirror and I'm super irritated. So I don't respray my beauty blender after like my foundation. Obviously it is wet because it's big, but it's not super moist. Make sure you press it into that side nose butt crack. And I also do the excess down where my smile lines are. And I blend out the line that was right here just by tapping over it. And I spend a lot of time pressing my concealer in as well. I feel like the more you blend in your concealer and powder, the less chance you will have flashback. So I spend a lot of time pressing my concealer in as well as my foundation and powder. Doesn't that color just look perfect? It's like not overly highlighted. It's just like, it's just perfect. I'm gonna do the same thing to the other side, getting right up on that lash line. And I usually, when I get to this side, go down my nose because I don't mind the stripe sitting on my nose just because I'm gonna highlight this area anyway. So if it sits a little too long, it's just gonna look a little highlighted. And I don't go too far up on my forehead because there's already gonna be concealer on the beauty blender, so it's gonna add more naturally once I get to that area. I always create like a little bit of a line right here. It just helps when I do my eyeshadow and eyeliner placement later. I always go back over this side once I do this side because this side always has a little bit more since there's already concealer on the beauty blender from when I did this side. So before I blend it in on this side all the way, I use what's on the beauty blender to add a little bit more naturally to this side just to balance out the color. And really make sure you press on that lower lash line, especially if you're a creaser. I go around my mouth just with the excess and then blend out my forehead. I feel like my forehead is really flat right here, so I like to brighten it up. I make sure that it's blending in between my eyebrows and down my nose, just tapping because I don't want it to be blended all the way out. I also use the excess on my chin and below where I'm going to place my contour. I don't like to actually put concealer there. I like to use whatever is left on the beauty blender. And even though I'm going to contour this area a little bit later, I still go up with the excess with my concealer on the sides of my nose all the way up to this part. Now time for the powder, which is one of my favorite parts because it mattifies my face, which you guys all know I love by now. So when I do my powder, I use the same side as I use my concealer. As you can see, this part is like hasn't been used. This side has, because this side is going to be a little more drier than this side. And when I press in my powder, if I'm in a rush and I'm pressing it too hard to where a lot of moisture is coming out the beauty blender, it is the most annoying thing because the powder doesn't want to stick on my face. It wants to stick on the beauty blender, and I have like little dots of like sponge prints all over my face. I cannot stand when that happens. So I usually just use the same side as I use with the concealer because, like I said, it's a little drier. And if I'm rushing, I just lightly tap into this and instantly just press it in to each area. Not using much because the less you use, the less time you have to take to blend it in. I don't use a brush when I use my setting powder just because I feel like I get the most seamless application if I just use my beauty blender, and I'm going to show you how I do it. It's summertime, so I usually go heavier than normal with my setting powder. I dipped it in 3 times. As you can see, it's a lot on there. Yes, I know. And I applied the same places that I applied my concealer. So on the sides of my nose, right up on that lash line, and out towards my temples. And I try to make sure that it looks like it's applied evenly. So like if it's super light right here, but it's heavier everywhere else, I'll just add a little bit more. I try to make sure the powder looks even when I apply it because it's going to help me blend it easier. Same thing with the other side. Down my nose. And whatever's left on here after I do like my nose and forehead, I just do on my cheeks. Sometimes I go heavy under my cheeks, sometimes I don't, but the less I use, the easier it is to blend out. So I'm not going to put that much today. I'm just going to put the excess around my mouth and underneath the contour. Alright, I know this looks like a lot, but the difference from it looking good and from it looking bad is the blendization. For me, if I was to just get a brush and whisk this away, it wouldn't be even enough for me. That used to be what I did back in the day, but then I started noticing some days it will look great and some days I will notice that it looks heavier in other places. So I just felt like I get the best results if I just press it into the skin. It helps me stay matte, it helps keep me from creasing longer, and it helps me on super hot days because the powder's just packed in there. It ain't going nowhere. I don't let it sit for too long, which is why I need to stop yapping. I'm looking for a mirror. Because the longer it sits, the harder for me it is to blend out. And the more chances I'm gonna have flashback. Nobody wants that flashback. So I'm using the same side that I used to apply it. And I'm literally just gonna press it in to my skin. So even though it looks like I'm just literally stamping, I'm doing the most subtle flicks ever. Not this, but literally like press, press, press. It's barely swiping, but it is swiping a little bit because I'm kind of just pancaking the powder, if that makes sense. So it looks like I'm stamping because I'm going so fast, but I'm gently flicking it, just the slightest. Don't go overboard with that flick. It's helping me blend in the powder faster and more evenly. I spend a lot of time doing this, so while I'm doing this, I'm just gonna rant because I'm literally gonna show you how long it takes me to blend in my powder, because this is the step that I try to take my time with, because if this ain't blended right, later on it will show. So as you can see, I literally packed on all the powder without using the brush, just with my beauty blender, and it looks extremely even. Doing this honestly causes a lot of dryness underneath your eyes, which is why I use a lot of serums at night and in the morning. Even sometimes before I do my makeup. I didn't do it today, I can say, because my face was already glossy, but sometimes I also put some Hydro Boost under my eyes if I'm neglecting like my nighttime routine and my eyes are just super dry. I'll put some Hydro Boost on before I do my routine because I already know that I'm gonna be matte and that this powder is gonna dry out my face. So for my contour, I'm using this UA Deep palette. I've been using this lately. It's not too red, it's not too cool. It's just like the perfect shade for me. I use this brush by Zoeva because it's not too dense and it's not too soft. It's like the perfect feel for me. I'm trying to do a quick clean, but it's not really working. So we're gonna pretend that my bristles are white. And I usually put the powder on the side of the brush first because that's how I stamp it on my face. Like I hold the brush sideways and stretch out my cheek, and I just stamp it where I want the product to go. And once I could see it like kind of stamped on, I do a little bit more pressure, add a little bit more powder, and then I'll kind of swirl it out. Usually when I have my wig on, that's when I pull my scarf back and really kind of work this powder into the hairline, because it kind of helps conceal my lace a little bit too. My forehead is not really a particular shape. I think I have like a 4.5 head. It's not quite a 5 head to me. Well, maybe. I do put a little bit more at the top than I do on the sides, but I'm stamping and swooshing at the same time. Gonna go on the side of the brush again, stamp on this side. So I usually always use a powder contour. Back in the day I used to use cream. I don't know if you guys remember, but I used to use that AJ Crimson. And to me, the more you mix creams and powders and all that stuff, the more likely you are to not blend it as seamlessly. It is possible to do, obviously, but there will be some days where if I didn't take enough time, you could see like the oil from the cream, even if I put powder over it. Like it didn't merge well with each other on some days. So I just found like that I get better results if I just apply a powder, or if I did want to use a cream for whatever reason, or a liquid contour, I would put that on right after my foundation and then apply all the powders. Like I would do them all at the same time as opposed to putting my powder on and then doing cream. It's like either all cream, all liquid, or all powder at one time. Don't nothing go on top of powder but powder for me. Nothing. So now that I have it all stamped on, I'm just gonna slightly swirl it just to blend out the lines a little bit better, even though I'm about to do it again. And I only add a tiny bit on my jawline. I used to not do this at all, but when I have a tan, it's really hard to get everything right unless I take a few extra steps that I don't normally take. So I do contour my nose, so I'm just gonna get a fluffy brush, a dome brush, and I barely add anything to the brush. I just tap it once in, and I barely apply any pressure and just sweep alongside the sides of my nose, starting at the tip of my brow and all the way down to the tip of my nose. And this little nose cave right here. It's literally like a shadow. I don't like the contour barely to show at all because it's super noticeable if you add too much, especially if you already have a wide nose. Like, I already have a wide nose, so I'm not really fooling nobody if I go too heavy with the contours. Like, we see ya. Sometimes when I want to define my cupid's bow even more, I put a little bit of contour in between the little cupid bow butt crack. Well, I don't know why I'm calling everything a butt crack, but I put a little bit down the crack, but I'm not gonna do that today just because it's just sometimes when I'm just being real extra. And sometimes I go a little bit under the chin. And the final step as far as the powders are concerned, not including like my highlight and my blush, but is my MAC Studio Finish in Dark. It's mineralized, so it's not heavy like a powder foundation. I've been doing this pretty much ever since I started tutorials. It's just always my final step to blend in my contour with my highlight, because I feel like you can still see this line here, you can still see the lines of my nose, and since it's light, it just kind of blurs everything out to my face. I put a lot on too because it's really light, so I'm stamping it on very lightly. I go on my smile lines, on my nose, right over the nose contour, right on the line of my cheek contour because I want the powders to blend in with each other, right on the line of the forehead contour. You probably can't tell on camera, but it just kind of brings back a neutral, still kind of golden. It just, the color looks better to me on this side. I kind of blurred out this forehead contour. It's like much harsher on this side than it is on this side. The color underneath the eye looks better. This is like flat and this is a little more like neutral and golden at the same time. I know I'm not tripping. You can see it in person. It's hard to see on camera. And I also blended out this cheek contour so it doesn't look as harsh as this side. It's a small difference, but it's a difference. And this extra layer of powder is gonna help defeat the oils that want to come out later. I put a lot of powder on my face, y'all, which doesn't really work for everybody, especially if you have dry skin already. But I also take care of my skin when I take my makeup off. And I eat pretty healthily. You know, I'm a salad girl. I eat salads all day, every day, and greens are really good for your skin. I drink a lot of water. I hardly drink any juice. I barely drink any soda. Not even my liquor. I like my liquor straight. That's good for your skin too. I'm just playing. Now I've got my little veil on. I'm gonna add my highlighter and my blush. You guys know I've been obsessed with this Tan Lines highlighter by Jouer. It's been on my face like every day since I got it. And I use this Sigma High Cheekbone highlighter brush. I do sweeps first because this baby will go on super heavy if you just like put it on like a marker. So I kind of just sweep it on first on the highest points of my cheeks up to my temple. I don't usually go up here because sometimes I feel like in the wrong light you just look shiny if you put highlighter like everywhere on your face. I have been putting this on my brow bone, which you guys know is very rare for me too because I like my eyelids to be matte as well, but it just looks so pretty. Sometimes I just be wanting this everywhere, so I might do that today when I do my eyes, but I haven't decided. I put a tiny bit on the tip of my nose, not the whole ball of my nose, but just like the very tip, and a tiny bit down the bridge. And of course, I light that Cupid's bow up. And I used to apply my highlighter after my blush because I used to be a blush abuser, but now I barely use blush and I'm a highlight abuser. So now I gotta apply that second to kind of blend out the highlighter. It's like, I just can't get my life together. When I do use blushes, I like to go for like the Ambering Rose, like the deep, like this color. This was a Taraji matte collab. And I apply a very small amount and I go on the balls of my cheeks and over my highlight transition. Because I can't quite contour with this color. I used to back in the day, but it's a little too red for me as opposed to like brown. So I started just using this as a blush and to go over my contour. See how it gives me like a slight rosy and it kind of like blurred out my highlighter so it's not a rough transition between my highlighter and my bronzer. Can you see how it just kind of glides down instead of just stamped on? Watch, I'll show this side. I'm just blending over the transition. See how I kind of just transitioned it better into my contour? No? Okay. Lastly, I'm gonna do my moles. I told you guys before, I use brown liner for my moles. Black just makes it look fake even if it is real. Brown to me makes it look a little more natural. Whatever brown liner you got, it can be pencil or liquid. I just have been using this liquid one because it's faster. This one is from CoverGirl, it's a 335. And the ones on my cheeks that poke out are really small, so I only use a little bit. And this sucker on my chin has literally doubled in size since I was younger. Somebody actually messaged me and told me I need to check it out with the doctor, because they were like, when I first followed you, that mole was really small. Now it's huge. You might want to get it checked out at a doctor. And it literally scared the shit out of me. So I haven't done it yet because I'm scared now. But my mom has the same mole. So I think it's just like a genetic mole. As long as I don't see no long witch hair growing out, I'm cool. And after I apply the liner and it dries, I just get the same brush that I apply my MAC Mineralized Skin Finish and tap over it. So this is the final look, y'all. I was gonna throw in a wig, but I'm literally going nowhere. I hope maybe there was a tip or two you guys can apply to your own routine. If not, I'm sorry. Like I said, not everything I do is gonna work for everybody else. This is how I apply my makeup 99.9% of the time. There's like a 0.1%, and it's usually when I'm traveling somewhere tropical, where I'll make it a tad more dewy, glowy, kind of like that glass skin glow. So if you guys want to see that version and not so much this dramatic matte version, I can do that for you, but I have to get requests to do that, child, because it's too hot for that type of look here. So I would literally just be doing that for y'all if it was requested, but let me know. I appreciate everyone who has supported me thus far, because your girl is stressed out. I'm trying to exit stage left because it's become too much for me. But like I said on Twitter, I'm gonna hang in for my day ones. But yeah, my clock's ticking with all this drama. I just feel like I'm too old for it, honestly. I'm not about to do my makeup with a fork. I'm not about to be controversial to get some subscribers. I'm just not gonna do it. So I will give you all these makeup tutorials. I will give you all these lit vlogs that y'all need to watch because they're pretty fun and lit. Maybe the last one was a little boring because I was too tipsy, but those are my favorite to do. I'm still posting on Yoshi's channel. She's starting to game, so if you have your little kids, make sure you guys go follow her. And yeah, so yeah, if there's anything else y'all want to say, if y'all still here with me, let me know in the comments. But until next time, love you guys. Mwah.